Welcome back to the Roundtable, the Outlook edition. We are talking about the Ban Ki-moon panel report summary version that has been leaked to some of the newspapers. We have with us Mr. Gomin Dayasri, attorney at law. Now, Mr. Dayasri, you threw a question at me. What should civil society do? Now, you are as much a member of civil society as a fellow citizen. What do you think? The citizens of Sri Lanka, how do you think the citizens of Sri Lanka should respond to this situation?
I think we have come to a stage when the litmus test has to be taken. I think the reactions of the people of Sri Lanka will determine whether they are for Sri Lanka or against Sri Lanka. I would say those who want justice, who say call upon the government, investigate if there are crimes, if there are any kind of wrongdoings, and bring the offenders to book, that is speaking for Sri Lanka. Those who say no, we want the Ban Ki-moon report implemented, we want these things done by foreign agencies, these things must be reported to the Human Rights Commission. We'll see who goes before the Human Rights Commission and makes the reports when it comes. Let's identify those people. And I think the Sri Lankan people, they know who are for Sri Lanka and who are against. They will get a still better picture, and I think it is time that everybody rallies around Sri Lanka, because our country has undergone so much hardship. We see some kind of a better dawn before us. Let us give our next generation the opportunity of enjoying the benefits of living without terrorism. And I think all of us must see it is not only terrorism, local terrorism, foreign intervention, all that we must wipe out at this stage before we are being subject to a kind of another form of colonization coming via war crimes.
Right. Now, Ms. Dayasri, there is one question that troubles me. When you say that people have to come together and decide whether we are for Sri Lanka or against Sri Lanka, given that we have a government, we have an executive presidency, all powerful, typically when I mean in practice, when you have these forces coming against one another, those who are for Sri Lanka and against Sri Lanka, those who are for Sri Lanka would be rallying around the president and the government. I mean, even in the real politics, where the allegations are directed to the people of Sri Lanka via the president and the political leadership. Now, could this give a wrong signal to the president and the political leadership? Because that we are for Sri Lanka, we are not necessarily for Mr. Rajapaksa or the UPFA. So, what kind of message do you think the president should get through all this?
Well,
or how should he read this?
Yes, Malinda,
or not misread it?
This is not an unusual situation. When the Indo-Pakistan war took place, when the second war took place, when there's a national crisis, whether it's a tsunami or like a national, all parties should get together, and in that effort, where necessary, constructively criticize the government, but don't go abroad, don't go to foreign bodies, don't discredit the state of Sri Lanka, the nation. Outside it shows, but make constructive criticism, get them on the right track, but do it in a manner that you don't enjoy, you damage the reputation of Sri Lanka for this simple reason, because this exercise is to discredit Sri Lanka. And that is what some of the people, some of these Muppets in Sri Lanka are also doing. So I think it's very easy to identify. I'm not saying be a support of the government. You can be a support of any party, but support Sri Lanka in this venture, because it is our forces, the leadership that enabled us to win the war and eliminate terrorism and now live in peace. We have an obligation, a duty, a national gratitude to safeguard them. To that extent, we must join hands, but at the same time, we must constructively criticize, bring matters to the president, not become a yes man for everything. But I think that line, the thin line is, are you going to go outside our shores, go to outsiders and discredit Sri Lanka, or are you within Sri Lanka trying to improve situation so that we can live as a proud nation? Remember, we have always lived looking at the glories of the past. For the first time, we are proud of our present, and let this generation enjoy it. Let us bequeath it to the next generation to be proud Sri Lankans.
Right, Ms. Dayasri, is very important. You brought up the question of pride, and the fact that we have to be grateful to those who gave, even those who are being accused of war crimes. Let us not forget that in order to save 300,000, over 300,000 people who are being held as a human shield, our forces suffered many casualties. If it was the intention to just get rid of the LTT leadership as quickly as possible without any concern for civilian casualties, our forces could have done the job with very few casualties to our troops. That did not happen. A lot of our soldiers perished, and they died because you and I and all of us can live peacefully, so that we can live peacefully, so that we can plan for our children and our children's children and future generations yet unborn. They can live in a land of plenty, land of freedom, land of peace, without the threat of terrorism, without wondering what's going to happen to my daughter at 11:30 in the morning when a bomb goes off, not knowing where your child is, where the next funeral is. So we are living in a society that is reaping already the dividends of peace, not just those in Colombo, Kandy, Galle and so on, where there were bombs exploding, but especially in the north and east, where the people in those areas were the ones who suffered most courtesy of the LTT and terrorism. We have come out of that. This report, we have concluded, this report has been mischievous. This report has cited sources that are not reliable. It's been mimicking and mouthing arguments brought by pro-LTT groups that have no reliability whatsoever, and we have both come to the conclusion, correct me if I'm wrong, that we must stand as a nation against all foreign forces, just as we stand as a nation for justice, for transparency and accountability in all things, in all government, public, private and so on. In all processes there should be accountability and justice. Am I correct, Mr.
I think
Dayasri?
put in a nutshell the words that people of Sri Lanka should remember at this time.
Right. So with that, we close this very interesting discussion. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy a pleasant night. Good night.